can be like that. And this morning we are very privileged to have Charles Hector from the Malaysian Against Death Penalty and Torture to be with us. Charles is from the Archdiocese, and hopefully with this sharing, our minds will be clearer. And I think sometimes it's not only for me to sign. It's also for me to be a prophet, to go out and speak and say, yes, we should all be supporting this cause. So let's give a big round of applause for.
Our topic today is actually abolition of death penalty in Malaysia. I think I'll start off by just actually looking at the statement of the Catholic Bishops of Texas on capital punishment. There's a lot of quotation from the Catholic Church, from the popes and everything, but I thought that this was actually the best. In our modern society, we have means of keeping an offender from harming others. Although in previous times, people of faith have employed capital punishment, today we have the ability to realize better the principles of mercy, forgiveness, and unconditional love for all people as evolved in the Hebrew Scriptures by Prophet Ezekiel. As I live, says the Lord God, I swear I take no pleasure in the death of a wicked man, but rather in the wicked man's conversion, that he may live. Turn your evil ways. The words of Ezekiel are a powerful reminder that repentance, not revenge, conversion, not death, are better guides for public policy on the death penalty than the current policy of violence for violence, death for death, eye for an eye. Okay. Now, some facts about Malaysia. 441 people we have hanged since 1960 until about March 2011. 930 persons are on death row currently. Now, interesting is that 81% of those who were hanged did not really take another human being's life. That means he did not kill anybody directly. That's interesting. Now, our faith teaches that death sentence is an affront to the God-given dignity of human life. I've got a lot of slides, so I'm just going through. These slides are actually also will be uploaded, I think, to the Latin campaign blog as well as in the MedPed blog, so you can actually see the data later. Now, why abolish the death penalty? There is a risk of sending an innocent person to death. And no human person, police, prosecutors, witnesses, lawyers, even judges are infallible. And no legal system in the world is error-free. And once a person is sentenced to death, he dies. Even if you find the truth later on, nothing can be done. It's irreversible. Okay. So, some of the factors that makes wrongful conviction possible. Tunnel vision by police and prosecutors. What is tunnel vision? Sometimes when police get this idea that this person is guilty, what happens is that the police actually is driven by this to find the evidence just for this person. So if other evidence comes to show that this person is not guilty or that there is some other person, they forget about it. One example is the whole case of Kenny Ong. If you remember the Kenny Ong, the whole world was actually focused on that guy, and so that guy get punished. So other possibilities are completely ignored. So this happens. It's one of the things. Then prosecutors sometimes think it's a battle. They want to beat the defense lawyer. So justice is not the important consideration. So therefore, even if there is evidence that this person might not be guilty, it becomes secondary. So that just happens. Judges are prejudiced sometimes. They believe police, prosecutors must be right. Then lawyers. There are good lawyers, there are bad lawyers. Many a lawyer in Malaysia cannot think are busy, hard work, or maybe sometimes also inexperienced. Many criminal lawyers who are handling criminal cases don't even take the time to actually do what you see on TV. They don't go around investigating, finding witnesses. Many of them have not even visited the crime site itself. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong that an innocent person could actually end up dead. Okay? Now this is one case in Asia, most recent case actually that has come up. This guy was killed. He went through the whole process, the court trial and everything. He was convicted. He was sentenced to death. Now they found out that he is innocent, and the government of Taiwan is now coming up and offering compensation. The Ministry of Defense says it will pay US $3.4 billion in compensation to the Jiang Ho Ching's relatives. But he's dead. He's been executed. Now, deterrence, this is the other argument that a lot of people say. You put death penalty, people will be scared and the crime will reduce. But, in fact, there is no research that actually proves this. In fact, in Malaysia, as far as drug trafficking is concerned, Minister just revealed in 2012, March, the numbers are increasing. 2009 to 2011 is increasing, it is not reducing. So the existence of death penalty is not deterring anybody. UN has actually done a lot of research. They have also said that failed to provide scientific proof that executions have a greater deterrent effect than life imprisonment. Studies conducted throughout the world in different matters came to the same conclusions. Okay? In the United States over the past 20 years, states with death penalty in general have had a higher homicide rate than states without the death penalty. So you have the death penalty, actually more murders are happening. Why? Okay? Now the other argument is that they say that the families and the victims, they want justice, eye for an eye, they are the ones suffering kind of things. No. But do they? Because you don't ask. And a lot of these people actually are not wanting, they want justice, but they don't want actually the perpetrator to be killed. And in fact, in many countries, family members of murder victims have actually formed groups and are now calling for the abolition of the death penalty. You know, there are two groups that are actually identified: murder victim family for reconciliation, murder victim family for human rights. They are asking. Okay. Now, Jesus himself, what did he do in the death penalty situation? Remember that incident when the woman was caught for adultery and everybody was ready to stone that woman? Because adultery in the Bible at that time, according to the law, the person commits adultery, stoned to death. How did Jesus react? Then neither do I condemn you, Jesus declared, go now and leave your life of sin. Now a bit of background on the death penalty, which offences. Death penalty, there is not. Now there is something called mandatory death penalty. What does it mean? Mandatory death penalty means if the judge finds you guilty, he has got no choice when it comes to sentence. He must sentence to death. He can't send you to prison. So those are my mandatory. So you've got murder, drug trafficking, unlawful possession, discharge of firearm, or while committing offences like extortion, robbery, preventing, resisting, and it goes on and on. A whole lot of this. Drug trafficking. This is the dangerous one. Now, drug trafficking have got this presumption. If drugs are found in your car or in your room, automatically they say it's your drugs. And the burden shifts to you. You have to prove that it is not your drugs. And if it's above a certain amount, then the presumption is that you are a drug trafficker. And you have to prove that you are not a drug trafficker. So if I come to your house actually and sneak into Alfred's house, for example, and puts the small packet of half kilo of heroin in his house there, calls the police, and the police come there and catch him. How is he going to prove that it's not his drugs? How is he going to prove that he's not a trafficker? So it shifts this whole thing about dangerous drugs and trafficking. And we have to realize that 220 people before they executed for drug trafficking. And about 479, now much more, waiting death row. If you cannot prove that they were not your drugs or that you were not a trafficker, you die. Now, in normal criminal cases, if they charge you for whatever crime, they have to prove. The prosecution, the state, the government, they will prove that you did this is the evidence, this is the witnesses, this is they prove, not you. You just defend. All you have to do is to raise a reasonable doubt, because the prosecution must prove beyond reasonable doubt. But drug trafficking, they say, no, I got you and this is your drugs, so therefore you are trafficker. How do you prove? And most of these people don't have the resources, they're not rich, they can't afford a lot of money to actually get the best investigators, get the best lawyers. So, that's it. Okay, there's been certain changes that have been happening in Malaysia. For a long time, Malaysians did not want to look at death penalty. So I don't have to decide, yes, I support, yes, I don't support, I'm standing on the seat. But now we actually had a lot of campaigns and we started to actually look at the whole question of death penalty. Over the few years recently, around 2005, 2006, suddenly we started looking at the people who are going to get hanged because of the offences. Because previously we were looking at murder victims. We're not so interested in the perpetrator. And suddenly we realized that that person is also a human person. Like, for example, who in the Muslim community was this case of Umi Aslim Muhammad Azim, University Science graduate from a poor Malay family of rice farmers. She was arrested in China, convicted, facing the death penalty. Then we had this case of Yong Wei Kong in Singapore. He was 18 years, 6 months old in 2007, arrested with 47 grams of heroin, still facing the death penalty. Umi Aslim, then they have got released. Suddenly we had faces of those people, and then people began to become a bit more open. Okay? Now, as far as the Muslim perception is concerned, previously Muslims was also having this thing, oh, the Quran says death penalty is allowed. But now they're changing their mind. The sense says, yeah, but in Malaysia it is not in the Islamic law that is providing for the death penalty, but the normal law. And this normal law is different from the Islamic law, because Islamic law requires a very different kind of standard of evidence. You require, proper witnesses who have actually seen and everything. You can't just go on circumstantial when a death penalty is concerned. So they also have changed. So one of the first groups in Malaysia actually who have been come out is the Malaysian Bar. In 2006 we passed a resolution. Malaysian Bar at that time was about 12,000 lawyers of all different races, all different religions, reflective of the Malaysian society, passed a resolution for the abolition of death penalty. That time there was abstentions, there was a few objections, many abstentions, a lot of Muslims abstained. But in 2012, no objections, it passed. Nobody has challenged it. None of the lawyers, the Muslim lawyers or whatever it is, nobody has challenged this resolution. Okay. Now, 2006 also we did Hello on 2 radio calling program, and so from the votes obtained, 64% said abolish death penalty. Suhaka, Malaysian Human Rights Commission 2012 came out very clearly, says abolish death penalty. The Malaysian Bar, Suhaka and the European Union have been very active since 2011, especially they've been organizing public events, programs, seminars, debates, whatever it is, all over the place. The youth wing of the Council of Judges of Malaysia have come out in support of the abolition. ProHam, another group. Most importantly, recently on 3rd November 2012, a lot of Malaysian groups came out. 79 groups actually came out of which 29 were Malaysian groups. And these are the groups. The Catholic Lawyers over there. And important is this, Kesatuan Pekerja Poliplastik Asia Pacific. This is a workers' union, a Malaysian workers' union. They also objected to this thing. And so there was a lot of groups. And this is the first time that actually people have come out and openly says abolish death penalty. Now, Malaysian government has been a bit contradictory. Malaysians getting arrested and being sentenced that overseas, they go and ask for clemency, you know, don't hang them, you know. But in Malaysia, they have been very quiet. So this contradiction, they want to get rid of this. Global trend, numbers are increasing. From 2007 to 2012, it has increased 104, 108. Now there is 111 in favor of abolition. This is the United Nations General Assembly resolutions passed. Abolition in practice and in law, 140 countries. Retention is 58. Now, this guy, Nasri, he is actually for the abolition of the death penalty. He has repeatedly come out and actually called for the abolition of the death penalty. And then he backtracked. And then says, no, but the government's position as a cabinet minister, I am for keeping the death penalty. Personally, he is for the abolition. So recently I said, he come out, there must be a mass movement and a strong opposition from the people for us to abolish the death penalty. That's why the signature campaign. That's why we need people to actually speak up now. Okay? It's nothing much about the actions. The last execution that we know is actually on 19th of December 2008. The guy, bus driver, was convicted. Before that, there were 4 executions in 2006. So Malaysia, over the past 7 years, have been slowing down. So also indicative that the government is seriously considering abolition. It needs